Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in another of our APPI Learn by Doing webinars. Our focus, of course, is on ARV. APPI, by the way, is a nonprofit institute associated with APP. So that's what the I stands for. And today we're going to be talking about expectations, attention, and inertia in the UCC. Last week, let me mute you, Cindy. Last week, last month, we do these on the first Wednesday of every month. Last month, we did intentions and inertia. So now we want to bring in expectations and attention. So here's the outline. We'll review for about a half an hour ARV, both for newbies, oldies, anybody that's interested. I usually do this a little different every time, so from different angles. And then we'll talk about this topic, expectations, attention, and inertia in the UCC. And then we'll do feedback for the prediction that we did last month. I think hopefully some of you will in fact be here that did it from last month, but if not, newbies will understand what's involved because feedback, and you'll hear me say this over and over again, is extraordinarily important in associative remote viewing. And then we'll make a new prediction, a new month-long prediction. So that's the agenda with a time frame which we hope to keep to at least roughly. So let's begin with associative remote viewing. Now in linear time, it begins with a remote viewing session. This is a true remote viewing session. The task is describe and sketch your feedback target. We'll put a 6-digit number in here when we get specific, but basically that is your task. Describe and sketch your feedback target. So this is when you remote view the target that you will see and experience during your feedback session. So that's rather typical of remote viewing when you get feedbacks. Oop. Tony, I'm going to mute you. Okay. So, period. So that's step one in linear time, right? Then, over here, later in time, is when you get to see your feedback target. And pretty much with some differences that you'll understand by the end of this webinar, you actually do very much the same thing. You describe and sketch the feedback target, but now you see it. Now you're in a position of having the truth about the target. Our targets are what we call photosites, and I'll be telling you more about that. So they're like pictures, but you can get the sounds and smells and everything from them. But the key thing is here, you have the truth. And what's amazing about precognition is that this information is shared with your remote viewing session in a fashion we don't understand, but fortunately we don't need to intellectually understand it. We know it's true. It's been done for many, 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 many years. So that's the connection. That's the main connection. The remote viewing session connected up with the feedback session. And the feedback session is when you see the actual single one and only target. Now, ARV, though, wants to make this useful. And so in between these is what we're now calling a transcript analysis session. We used to call it analysis judging. But some people didn't like judging. It just sounded too intellectual. And this is actually what it is. It's a transcript analysis session. Now, why is that important and what goes on there? Now, this is when, if we're doing anything where there might be a wager, but I prefer to think of it as an investment, either in sports or financials, and we think of it as an investment because if we're doing this, we believe we have an edge over chance. So, okay, so this is where you make the investment decision here based on analyzing the transcript with, as I'm now going to explain, two possible pictures. Now, how does that all fit in? What we're doing is what's called binary ARV. For financials, that basically means we want to know if a certain financial instrument, if that price is going to move up or down, and we use stops and limits, so up or down a certain amount. But basically, it's simple binary. Will it be moving up or will it be moving down? So since it's binary, there are two possible targets that we now associate. That's where the word associative comes from. We now associate two possible targets. One's associated with up, and I bet you can guess what the other one's associated with. The other one is associated with down, right? So here you are in your analysis position. What you know for sure is that the actual target you're going to see at feedback time, which is the one and only target that exists for you as a remote viewer that you're going to describe, you will see what actually happens. If the market price moves up, you will see the one associated with up. If it moves down, you'll see the one associated with down. So here you are, an analyst. And if you look at the transcript and you do matches and comparisons with the up possible target, notice these are called possible targets, and you get a really good match with this one, well, hey, it makes really good sense that you would invest in the up direction because the remote viewer gave you the up target. And of course, on the other hand, if the viewer gives you a really good match to the down, then in fact, guess what? You would then invest in the down direction. So really, that's ARV. And the association comes because you have this ability to analyze two possible targets for the two possible outcomes. And then right in here, after you do your analysis, but before the actual outcome, you get to invest. And so this is when you do your investment, and this is where the event occurs. And then you get your feedback session. Okay, so let's just make this even clearer, hopefully. One of the things which I believe is quite important to get in our ARV work is that this is purposeful precognition. You know, there's a lot of precognition that occurs in a non-purposeful fashion. Deja vu might be an example of that. Knowing who's on the telephone, a person you haven't heard from 10 years, and yet right before he calls, you think of him. That's a kind of precognition. That happens a lot, apparently. But that's random. We're doing this on purpose. So, in fact, we can do two things, and I think these are in order of importance. The first is to really investigate and learn more and more about our own personal subconsciousness. It's rather incredible. The fact that precognition is real is a mind blower. that consciousness has this capability and that virtually all of us can do it to one extent or another, and you can learn and get better at it. So that's one of the things you learn, and you can learn more and more about yourself. And then the other is for investment purposes. Now, precognition begins with the feedback session. And what precognition teaches you is a way of looking at the universe which seems to be almost outside of space and time. We usually think of cause and effect, and in time, the cause comes first. We know that's not true now, because the feedback session is clearly somehow causing information to be shared, to be entangled with, to be connected to the remote viewing session. So cause and effect really has different meanings that you think about than we usually think about. And so this idea that precognition begins here where the truth is really a good way of thinking about it. It makes the feedback session super important, which it is. But as usual, the remote viewing session in linear time comes first. And then this transcript analysis or judging session. Now, what is the feedback target? I sometimes will call it a picture, but it's more accurately referred to as a photo site. Now, a photo site refers to the particular site location at the particular time the photo was taken. So it's clearly strongly connected to the photo. And in fact, some people will actually just remote view the photo, period. So they'll try to duplicate the two-dimensional aspect of the photo. However, we recommend, and consciousness does this actually whether you like it or not, I think, but we recommend that your consciousness move to that site at the time the photo was taken and describe and sketch what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo, which includes first impression gestalts, like not only the visuals, okay, which you can get directly from the photos, you can get the shape from the photos, you can certainly get the, whether it's big compared to humans or small, you can get that from the photo. But what you don't get from the photo and what remote viewers describe all the time are things like sounds and smells and tastes and tactile sensations and emotions. Your whole nervous system is reporting, not just your eyes. And so you should be open to using that. I love the example I had several years ago of a beekeeper that was covered with bees, and one person's transcript had all over it, bizz, 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 bizz. The guy just couldn't stop getting the sounds. And lots of times, if there are cannon fires, people will actually hear that loud sound or bang. So really be open for all of your senses reporting on the target, which is in fact a photo site. Now, I hope you agree that in principle, the idea of ARV, once you accept that this entanglement between the feedback session and the remote viewing session, entanglement of information is real, the idea is really quite simple. And you can get better and better at it with practice, practice, practice. And, there'll be a lot of people, including me and others, that are going to give you advice, and you listen and you take in what resonates with you. But after you kind of get the initial stuff, a lot of it is going to be up to you. We can only guide you so far, because this is inner work. This is like an inner job. It's about your inner self. And so you can do practice, practice, practice like a doctor or a shaman. I love the fact that doctors, lawyers, and maybe even shamans call what they do a practice, because they're always doing and learning different things in different ways. So Joe McMonagle did six of these a week regularly. That was his general approach. Here, let me close this. Okay. So practice, practice, practice. One other key point I want to make here is that remote viewing is very unique to each viewer. So some of you newbies, it's like it doesn't have to be one way. And I want to show you some example transcripts for the same target. We did this quite a while ago. We had lots of people go after the same target. And let me show you that. This was a remote viewing transcript. This was the target. Precog, just like normal ARV. Notice this is the 6-digit coordinate we use. We always ask people to put the date and the time that they start, and their name. This one doesn't happen to have the name. This is probably sheet 2. But you can see a sketch and words. Most people do combine sketches and words. Some people give just sketches, and some people give just words. One other thing which is very important to notice here is AOL, which stands for analytical overlay. This is when your analytical mind, your intellect, your ego self, the one that gets you through your life. I mean, your good ego, you're surviving quite well, thank you. Here you are now, and but it's an intellectual oriented thing. And notice here, got the twirling, sort of saw a vehicle that came up like from their subconscious by the fact they put it in the center here, but over here that came in intellectually that it was a helicopter. Now, what's so fascinating about all this is you kind of learn how this person learned how their subconscious worked. You can see a connection with the vehicle here. It's not exactly right, but yeah, you would say some connections there. The twirling going down, the twirling here with and here it's saying some sort of energy, which of course is true as it's falling, spiraling downward, concaving from above. Very nice, but not everything. Wood colored. I would say this was really rather excellent. Okay, but this AOL part, the reason it's so important is one of the things which you learn from this exercise of ARV, from this work, and I hope you take it on as positive work in the best sense of that word, is to distinguish between what's coming up from your deep subconscious. That's, is that the telephone? Let me see. Okay. Is that the deep subconscious is where the action is. That's what has access to this information from the universal collective consciousness. The place where all that is outside of space and time. It's not your analytical self, but it wants to play. We try to quiet it down, but it has to be around because it's the part that's generating the written transcript, but we try to keep it quiet. But being able to distinguish stuff from the subconscious, the communication from that is extraordinarily important and valuable. So here's another transcript. Notice another style. Again, this is one page. The A, B, and C was their way of doing remote viewing, which we won't get into now. But here in came the words Valley of the Rift, which was sort of interesting, and channel flow, and then this really good sketch. Okay. And the point is, they don't have the slightest idea what this is. All they do is report once they've set up their intention to describe and sketch their feedback picture. And you can see how well some people do. And don't get intimidated. I once had somebody tell me that they were sort of intimidated because these were so good and theirs weren't that good. Yours can get that good. You'll do some this good some of the time. The idea is to get so you can do it this good 70% of the time or so, let's say. That's what we like for people to do, and we'll start turning them into professionals when they get up to that level. Here's another one. Notice this one is almost all words, except for this sketch here, and it has white and a dark-skinned man, so sort of inverted these two. But the thing I really want to point out to you is this, and it was an AOL. The thing about AOLs are most of the time they're not right when it comes from the intellect because it makes a jump which is too fast, but sometimes it is. And this AOL says sound of fabric flapping in the wind. Got to admit, to pick up that kind of information is kind of amazing. Look at this. AOL, black shoes, sand, hot, beige, black. Really, these people were all tuned in. And there were some that weren't very good. I'm not showing you that. This is the last one I want to show. And notice this sketch came in, and you can see exactly where it came from. So as the analyst, you would certainly give a lot of credit for this. You know, they never, or usually never, though Joe McMonagle, a little, he can get it to be right on. Most of us, when we're doing well, get things like this. But enough so you can say the person made contact here. Now, notice again, under the AOL, this person recognized that it was the intellect that jumped in and said porcupine. That's really appreciating the fact that the sub gives one level of information, including sounds. Look the way the sound came through here, versus the intellect. And so again, what comes from the sub is the main part of the transcript, but you identify AOLs. It's like whatever comes into your conscious ought to get down on your piece of paper, your transcript. Downward, green. I don't know if there is any green. Again, they're not usually 100%, but these have been awfully good. Staccato beat. Your job to describe and sketch, you just report what your sub provides, and if your analytical mind gets involved, you put it on the right side of the page. The words, and you saw that in all of these examples, tend to be, I call them low level. You know, you don't want to name things. You know, you're never going to say bungee jumping. That's just too high level. You get all the other kinds of words that are listed here. This is a list that Daz Smith made. I can send you a copy of this. But they're the kind of normal words that come up in describing things. Like if you were a 7-year-old and you didn't know the name of it, you know, you would use these kind of words: hard, soft, hissing, big, small, metal. The kind of words, those are just the kind of words that will automatically come up from your subconscious. I think this most deeply rooted in you because they're there all the time. You've seen them all the time. And then they most easily connect up with the actual target. questions, comments? That's ARV. You're all okay? Then we'll move on. Now let's talk about expectations, attention, and inertia in the UCC, Universe of Collective Consciousness. Expectation. The definition, just to make sure we're all thinking about this the same way, is a strong belief. And that word belief, I'm going to come back to, and we'll always come back to it because it's very important. Because beliefs are down deep in you, you know. Strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. Will happen or will be the case in the future. Now, what about in the future? One thing I want to point out here is time frame is very important part in terms of expectations, and in particular, since we're talking about hit rate. And yes, there's so much more going on in ARV in terms of learning about yourself and all that. And yet, when we apply it, and when we try to come up with what's the most important measure, it turns out to be your overall hit rate. Just like a guy who is in a 100-yard dash, ultimately he wants to know and better the time it takes him to do that. Hit rate is the most important measure for us, and we'll be going back to that over and over again. Now, but what are we talking about? Are we talking about expectations for your hit on the next prediction? How about expectation about hit rate for the next week, month, or year? Expectation about your hit rate with no specific time frame involved? This is one of the places where attention comes in, because the fact of the matter is you probably have loose expectations about all of these when you go into your next prediction based on what's happened in the past and all that. You have some expectations, but maybe spending some time thinking about it, and that's what we're going to talk about, and not only thinking about it, meditating on it, getting in touch with your subconscious and working it could be quite valuable, because all of these are down there at one level or another. Now, create your I-Psi. The I-Psi part of you, we all have different personalities, right? You're different with your spouse, you're different with your kids, you're different with your coworkers, you behave differently with a friend at a sporting event than if you go with a friend to a webinar or a workshop. The personalities are different based on the environment. Well, you have already, even though you haven't called it such, something that I want to call an I-Psi for each of you. This is your personal feelings about, talents in, expectations for your psychic ability. And it's something deep in you that's been built up over all of the interactions you've had with Psi in general. And precognition is one aspect of that. But I want to put all of Psi phenomenon in there because they're so intimately connected. Okay, so when I say I-Psi, that's what I mean. Now let's talk about what we might do, and I hope you agree that this labeling, which I've done, has value And you can work and create and consciously improve all of your specific subpersonalities. And you tend to do that all the time. If you're not happy with your relationship, um, well, with your wife, you might really work on improving that. And you think about it. What do? You might talk to her about it, communicate, and, what can I do to make us work together better as spouse, um, etc. The same thing at work. People, when you're a new person at work, people are telling you how to do it better. And eventually, when you get a little bit more mature, you come up with your own ways of doing your work better. That's what we're talking about here. Now, Scientific America did a whole study on this, on what they call the expert mind. And this expertise creation process seems to be a combination of intention, emotions, feelings, thoughts, beliefs, expectations, attention, and actions in a harmonious, effortful fashion. Now, let's see what they meant by effortful. This is their definition of effortful that I'm about to give you from the Secrets of the Expert Mind, which you can get from one of the old Scientific Americans. What matters is not experience per se, but effortful study. Okay, so effortful study entails continually tackling challenges that lie just beyond one's competence. So you're always working to grow, always working to get better. Okay? Tackling challenges. You're taking on these challenges always. And that is your approach. That's your expectation. Once you get to one point, there's going to be another challenge next, and you're looking forward to that. That's part of being an expert. You're positive about taking on challenges. They continued. Even the novice engages in effortful study at first. In contrast, experts in training keep the lid of their mind's box open all the time. I love that expression, but I think we all know what it means. The lid of their mind's box open all the time. Thus, motivation appears to be a more important factor than innate ability in the development of expertise. Now, I'll allow that conclusion actually is controversial. Some people say you're born with the talent, but and maybe the maximum you can get to might in fact be there, but you'll never know that unless you keep going and going. And what is clear is everybody can get better and better and better. And I think why most people think this is as good as they can get is because they're tired of the challenges. They're tired of keeping the lid of their mind's box open. They probably could get even better. But that's my opinion. So from Scientific American, this effortful study approach is true of all the different fields they looked at, and I think there's no reason to believe that wouldn't be true for ARV. So what are some of the commonalities in experts in training? And I've now introduced, and I'm not going to go through it, I have in previous workshops, sort of the details of the universe of collective consciousness. That's what I always indicate as this light blue circle. But it includes everything consciousness touches, past, present, future. It really can't have a boundary, because anything you were to think about that you say, oh no, but that's outside the UCC, you thought about it. Your consciousness touched it, so that puts it inside. So the UCC is equivalent to all that is. Ingo Swann called it the matrix, the Akashic records. Different traditions give it different names, but every tradition seems to have something which is deep, ultimately spiritual, non-physical, and the physical comes up for it. But in this non-physical space is where things like confidence lie. And this is something which seems to be common with these experts in training. They're just positive all the time, and they have these positive expectations. Hey, do they have their negative moments? Of course, but they're basically self-confident that they'll get through them. And so the positive expectations are there. And this effortfulness, the way it's usually put in the sports version and will work for ARV, is out to better their personal best. You know, so if on your last 25 predictions you did 60%, you'd love your next 25 to be at least 65. You want to do better, and you expect to do better, and you'll come up with techniques in conversation with your subconscious on what to do. Now, here again are some commonalities that I believe which are relevant to remote viewing in ARV. Again, the self-confidence, positive expectations, out to better your personal best, absolutely. So that's in common with all of them. Here, though, this fact that we're working within a very specific protocol, the ARV protocol, I think is important to recognize, recognizing that it begins with the feedback session, things of that sort. And keeping track of the results and the outcomes. So this is where the hit rate comes in. And I just said when possible, because some people still do remote viewing where they never get feedback. And if they want to do that, that's fine. But for ARV, we always have a hit rate. And I, in fact, feel that's really the most important thing to do. Otherwise, how do you improve? So you keep track of your history. This practice is so important. And enjoyment. You just have to enjoy the work. And of course, I add mostly. Guess what? We don't all enjoy it all the time. We have our conscious minds. And here's again from Scientific American. I have great respect for that. They are the journal which tries to bridge the gap between the really high-tech technology that's going on and then get it to the more, I don't know, non-technical person. But it's peer-reviewed, and the articles are very good. So here they were talking about the unconscious mind. We use the word subconscious mind. So this is the subconscious mind down here. Up here, I'm sure you can't see this, but this would be the conscious mind, you know, the metaphor above the level of water for like an iceberg, but here they use a cute picture of the brain. And then the ego and all that is sort of at the top level, connecting you with the real world. But then the UCC is this past, present, future. Everything is down here. And the communication between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is what connects up with the UCC. Your non-physical things like your beliefs, all your ideas, your emotions, all the things you've learned to do, which I call inertia. Hey, your heart beats all by itself. All of that stuff is way down here and controlled by your subconscious. I consider you to be a combination of your conscious mind, which is in the now, what you're experiencing right now, and your subconscious mind is everything else. That's you, that is sort of been connected with your DNA, say. It resonates with you. Um, Now, actions, thoughts, feelings, the things that you can do in the now, that you have in the now, that you experience in the now, go down and are shared down here. Okay? So all of this is what gives you the ability to change. The mind's under construction, whether you like it or not. You have a new experience, you're a changed person. Again, in linear time. So this is your I psi. Your I psi is acting in here when there's psychic stuff involved in any way. So it will entangle with your I psi. And here's where I see a way of showing expectations. You know, remote viewing session, later your feedback session, expectations work both ways. Here, when you're doing your remote viewing session, you're expecting to share information with your feedback session. Guess what? When you're doing your feedback session and seeing the truth, really be clear that you have expectations of sharing that information with your remote viewing session and feed all of that. Okay, I'm going to ask you now to do a self-evaluation. I've never done this before. I would like you to take out a sheet of paper and simply, in any way you want, use a 0 to 7 scale. Those of you who have been around, where 7 would be like you're really very, very self-confident, or just put in a few words on a piece of paper. You know, what do you think about your I psi self now? That part of you that you're going to use for doing ARV and remote viewing sessions. Just put down a word or two, a number or two, just to indicate to yourself. Nobody else is seeing this. This is how you right now feel. And be a little quiet about this. You know, ask your subconscious. This is not so much an intellectual, it's a combination of intellectual and your I psi. You're asking your I psi, how does it feel? How confident is it? How do you feel about this effortfulness? You know, are you really trying to do better and beat all your personal bests in like a conscious fashion? And, you know, you might indicate, is that like on every session? Do you have a sense of wanting to do better over a period of a month, a year? Is it vague? You know, and I'm not making any judgments. I'm just trying to get you to see where you are, and if you've even considered this stuff that maybe never thought about it, never felt it, never consciously asked myself that. What's your level of believing that expectations can indeed influence the future and the past? That's RI is like remote influencing, but forget that word. What do you believe about this idea that your expectations can truly influence the future and influence the past? Strong belief, not so strong belief. And then expectation for your 10-day hit rate. You know, your next series, and where do you think that's going to be in the longer term? And then I asked the same thing for the 25-day. You know, do you think you'll be able to get a 90% hit on your next 10? 70%? What's your expectation for that? You know, do you think it's impossible to get 10 in a row ever? You know, where do you stand with that in terms of your I psi belief system right now? And then how do you feel about practice, practice, practice? Is your intention to do this once a week and you feel that that's enough? Are you doing other stuff which you feel is related to it that might be really cool? Do you intend to do more practice, practice, practice? Uh, you know, just put something down about that, where you are right now. Just be honest with yourself. No one else is going to see this. And are you enjoying all this? Huh? You having fun? This should have come up earlier, but I said it. Are you enjoying it? Are you having fun? And do you see yourself continuing to have fun? I think that's really important because, when you look back at your life, one of the things you're going to look back on is hopefully you spent a lot of time enjoying life. And, again, it's not going to be 100%, but you'll know if you're basically enjoying this endeavor. Now, on a new sheet of paper, brand new sheet of paper, I want you to draw a big circle, just like the one I've drawn here. And in the middle, just put expectations for your future ISI. I'm leaving it that vague. And so I'm going to leave you quiet for just a couple of minutes, and almost like you would do a remote viewing session, just from your sub and a little bit of the intellect, what are your expectations for your future ISI? And just put down whatever comes up.
Okay, I still can't hear him.
Okay, no, I'm being quiet. I'm being quiet for 2 minutes. And okay, and your 2 minutes are up. And so hopefully you have on a sheet of paper, put down your expectations for your future ISI. Okay, wait, Jim, I will mute you. Your mic was on. Um, okay, now please give me some feedback. Is this valuable? Is this something which might be valuable to use in the future? Turn on your mic or, put something in the chat box about that. I haven't been looking at the chat box, but I'm happy to do so now. Do you think that was something which had some value for you? Thank you. It was a thought you had this morning. Did you precog it? Okay, wow. Thank you. You know, I've never done something like this in these workshop webinars, but it seemed like a good idea. Okay, well, at least some people got value out of it. Um, did somebody think it was just a waste of time? Too much in the head? Hey, you got to be honest about this because you're not only influencing, um, me here. Okay, okay, thank you, Shane. Okay, excellent. Um, excellent. Let's move on. Now let's talk about intention and begin to connect all these together. What's the definition of intention? Notice taken of someone or something, uh, the regarding of someone or something as interesting or important. Uh, I happen to think you almost need both of those if you're really going to pay good attention. You almost have to force the interesting, but that's my own point of view. But you definitely want to pay attention to something, um, and that helps make it important. And hopefully, you can also make it interesting. But another definition, which is quite valuable and very relevant here, is a condition of readiness for such attention involving especially a selective narrowing or focusing of consciousness, notice consciousness, and receptivity. So, yes, it's interesting and important, but it's more focused. You're narrowly focused on something and with your consciousness, and this will allow you to receive it in a stronger way. So that's the idea of paying attention to stuff, is that you will get more from it, you'll receive more from whatever it is you're paying attention to. Okay, now here's one of the things which ARV in a really important way can teach you. You pay attention to your I psi. And it really does go both ways. Your conscious mind receives things from the I psi, but your conscious mind also sends stuff down, using the metaphor of an iceberg, down to the subconscious. It's it's both ways. And by paying attention, you begin to appreciate this. So this means you could begin, as you get better and better at this, working with your I psi in other areas. For example, health, which is something I've given other webinars on, and I will do some in the future, because this is ARV and precognition are very closely related to self-healing and most, if not all, other psychic phenomenon. Now let me relate inertia. Let's get inertia into this. Inertia in the physical world is like mass will keep going in the same direction with the same speed if you don't put any force on it. Um, out in space, far away from anything else, objects will move in a straight line. It's gravity that causes things to change like Earth goes around in a circle and stuff like that. If you've ever seen an ice, on ice, for example, there's very little friction, which is the force that will slow down a ice puck, which will go very, very far on clean ice. But that's mass. Well, similarly, and even more so, in the UCC, the world of non-physical ideas, you have so much inertial things going on, almost all of which are positive, and you wouldn't want to change. And I'm thinking of your autonomic nervous system, right? You don't have to pay any attention to where your heart works. That's pretty complicated. You no longer pay any attention to how you walk. You just do it naturally. You paid a lot of attention to it when you were learning it. You had to fall down, you probably hurt yourself. Riding a bicycle is another good example. But once you learn it, it becomes automatic. And there's inertia at the subconscious level on how to do all this. Even walking across the street, if you had to think about all the muscles that were involved, you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. So this idea of inertia is really important, and one which you can understand. It's not like there's any magic in this. You understand that ideas have inertia in you. Your belief systems have inertia. The definition of this one, tendency, I'd like this, tendency to do nothing or to remain unchanged. And they have a lot of other words, stagnation, dullness, are all rather negative. And I claim it doesn't have to be negative, but laziness was another one I circled, because the negative reality of inertia is that very often we don't think that we can change things, that it has to be the way it is because it's been that way for so long. That's particularly true of belief systems and other things as well. So there's a kind of laziness there. It's certainly easy to do nothing. Inertia, the idea of inertia, the psychic part of you, I mean, just like all of you, of course, is in this UCC, all the ideas, all the non-physical parts of you, and they go up to give the physical you. But the ones I'm highlighting here in this fashion indicate the connectivity between them, which is what I want to talk about. So the I-psi part of you has inertia in it. What about its expectations and intention? Okay, how can we connect all that? What about intention as well and beliefs? Okay. Inertia in the UCC is very prevalent and important in our lives. If you do what you always do, right, that's inertia, you get what you always get. That was Einstein. This is the first time I've seen this picture of him. So he did this in some interview. But isn't that a great definition of inertia? And here's another one. The same old thinking, the same old results. Okay? So what do you have to do? Got to take action. And in the world we're living in, this action has to do with the subconscious. It's down there where the belief systems are. It's down there where you need to act. Action changes things. Okay? That's how you change inertia. So you need to do something. And recognizing that and then doing it is the most important first step. So we've used the words limiting beliefs when we were talking about creating the I-psi. And I think here is at least one, but maybe the key place where if you're going to improve, you need to change belief systems at many, many, many levels. At the subconscious level, but different dimensions, maybe be a better word, at the subconscious level. What do you believe about your hit rate? What do you believe about how good it can get? What do you believe about, gee, are there other things which might be influencing me, like my beliefs about money? So let's talk a little bit more about this, but there are many dimensions about this. Okay, so focused expectation energy. And I'm not referring to this as energy because forces acting through time is what energy is. And that's what you need to do here. You need to put expectation energy, focused intention energy as well. And this will change the belief inertia. So the only thing limiting us in life is our limiting beliefs. Change your beliefs, change your life. All of this just is so true, and I think you believe it. It's taking action and doing it is the big step. So, I kind of ask, what are your limiting beliefs about being at a sustained 75% hit rate? That's what I want more and more people to do. If you get to a sustained 75% hit rate, even a 70% hit rate, I will show you how you can become a precog pro. You can actually start earning money because you're now good enough. Focused expectation energy and focused intention energy changes the belief inertia, okay? Guess what? All of this only happens in the now. Your conscious mind, when you take action, the only place you can take action is in the now. And that's why it's this idea of inertia. You're not changing, people always say they change the past, they change the future. You can't do that. The now moment is all consciousness has. Your whole life is a collection of all of your now moments. You can't change any of them. This now moment is here and then it's gone. But that was part of your life, okay? What you can change is the inertia associated with you. And you can do that in the now moment. It's just so important to kind of get that. Okay, so the time for action is now, because that's the only time you can take action. And that's the only time you can observe results, right? You can only see things and know things and be conscious of things in the conscious mind in the now. Now, you can go to the future, like when you go to the feedback session, and you can project, but guess what? That projection is part of your now conscious moment, right? Okay, so the change of your inertia only occurs in your now motion moments. The way I at least recommend doing this, and I'm sure there are other people out there, and you'll come up with other ways, but I think a very effective way is quietly ask your subconscious. Again, after you get past preliminaries and you're sort of doing ARV regularly, and you got all the stuff about the protocol and the email links and all that behind you. So now your focus is on really doing the precognition and the feedback sessions, and you want to get better and better at this. Ask yourself for advice. Hey, what areas do I need to work on in particular? Or what inside me might be going on that's limiting me? What are my limiting beliefs? And I'm just going to give one example. It's the one I always give because I think it's with most people. and that's money. This is just one example. I've given the example of how good can you be with your hit rate. Another example that just popped in my head was, uh, um, is there other stuff that I've done in the past that's limiting me now, like fear? Am I afraid of success? Am I afraid of failure in general? And so that's participating with me right now. There's just so many examples, but it's your subconscious that's going to give you the information that you need, since it's the one that's dealing with all this. With money, how many times have we heard money is the root of all evil or something similar to that? Money is a limited resource. Oh my God, if I get more, I'm going to be taking it away from somebody else. I'll be a bad person. It's selfish to want a lot of money. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Somehow there's negativity associated with this. Some people are just not good with money. That's part of their belief system. They don't know how to handle it. They haven't handled it well in the past, so they're not going to handle it well here. Only corrupt, dishonest, unethical people have lots of money. We've been hearing a lot about that, recently, about a lot of people who have a lot of money and they're corrupt, dishonest, unethical. But a lot of people have that not only for a few specific people, but they sort of believe that most rich people got it dishonestly. They didn't work for it. And if that's part of your belief system, I think that'll work negatively towards you. Money is very, very important. And I think you can think it's too important. And certainly I don't want people to be doing this for the money alone. They need to have some good other deeper reason. Money is not that important. Yeah, it's only money. Well, yeah, but if you're going to get the money, you're going to have a good hit rate, and I want you to have a good hit rate. So that would clearly be a negative belief. So you need to just get to a point where your belief about money is neutral, or you might just simply see it as another measure like the hit rate. And I also highly recommend that when you get into and if a lot of people never even want to do the investing part of this or make money. They just continually want to learn more about themselves. But if you do get involved with the money, I really recommend you feel really comfortable about using it in some way that feels good for you. Some people give 10% of their profits to charity, for example. But just do something which makes it feel good for you at the deepest level that your subconscious can appreciate. Okay. Now, this all works. And I want to connect it with beliefs here in a direct way with this universe of collective consciousness that has all kinds of stuff in it. Consider these things to be all kinds of events right now. What are events? Events are just multiple nows in your life. You're here at this webinar. You've had so many nows up to this point. You'll have more nows until the end. And altogether, you'll say, okay, this event was a webinar I did, and that's fine. That's an event. But you've had so many of these. One of the things you fortunately can do is you can increase entanglement. That stuff is still down at the UCC level. All of it remains, and all that is. So all your previous now moments are there. All your future now moments are there. But by writing it, putting it like this, I'm saying, well, let's just focus on two, okay? But fortunately, you don't have to have all your now moments with you now. Well, you can increase the connection with positive expectation. And you know that. You know that in your day-to-day life. If you're planning some event from the future, a wedding, perhaps, you spend a lot of time planning what the flowers are going to look like. You expect those flowers to be there. You get an image of them first, then you go to the florist and you go with them. All kinds of expectation things are going on which make that event happen. Okay? And you're all the while increasing the entanglement with the times that you're thinking about the future wedding. Okay, so this might be all the time before the wedding or whatever, but clearly you can increase the entanglement that way. Well, let's now imagine you have a current belief which has its inertia with you. And what you want to do with this limiting belief, you want to modify it so that it'll be, in your opinion, this is all about you, your I-psi. In your opinion, you want it to have this modified way. You want to know that you're going to get to the 75% hit rate level, and you can sense it, and you go there, and you imagine it, and you expect it. And I don't know if you want to put a specific time frame on. This is for you to do, but you have this modified belief. And so that's what this other event is. And you're investing time with this modified belief, with this positive expectation. And you can now increase the entanglement energy, the expectation energy, the entanglement between these two events. And that's the action which I believe you can do to modify your beliefs and to change your inertia. Okay, questions on that? Comments on that? Okay, I'm looking at the chat box. Yeah, working with missing persons is one of the great things to use for remote viewing, and warn myself. Well, that's interesting. There are a lot of people. Russ Tarr gives an example of how he thinks precognition saved his life. He knew there was a big rock in front of the road on a sharp curve, and he knew to go to one side or another to miss it. So, okay, you're asking a question. What is my hit rate so far? After you do your feedback session, there is a link there which will give you your hit rate in chart form, and it will give you all the information that you put there prior, in all of your sessions. So you get all the notes that you've been writing in the note boxes, and you get a hit rate. So I actually think I might have, I just happened to be working with someone who had a very good one. Well, here's he's pretty good. Here's 60%. The red curve is cumulative from the beginning. Here's the hit rate versus session time. The red is cumulative from the beginning. The blue is the last 10-day hit rate. So it's like 10-day moving average, again, ignoring passes. So you can see it always moves from 10 to 10. And then the green is a 25-day moving average, which I think is most representative. I have one guy here who is at 80% in his first 10. So this is what you get, and you can see whenever you click on that link after you complete your feedback session. Okay. How can I go? Let's see. Hit rate. It never opens for me. Okay. next time that happens, send me the error message and I'll fix it and we'll talk about it. Okay? Lorik, how can I go back and do feedback sessions that I missed? Okay, well, feedback sessions don't time out unless there's something going on your computer, but just go to the same link. If you go to the link that we provide for the feedback sessions, I think it has outcome and feedback on the subject heading. Just click the link and you'll go right back to your feedback session. So you can do it there. Yes, Ruth. And what we're about to do now is actually going to show you that. Okay, so we're going to give you your first lesson sort of in backward order because we're going to start with feedback, but you will learn a lot about how it all works shortly. No. It's your hit rate between your remote viewing session, when you did your remote viewing session, and either you judge it or someone else judges it. They then decided whether it's up or down. And then the feedback session is where it's wrapped up. And that's when you know whether it was a hit or miss based on the actual outcome versus your prediction. So you make a prediction of up and down based on how we're going to actually do it here with self-judging. So how you judged which photo site best matches your transcript. It's one of two possible. And if you say it's the up photo site, okay, and it turns out to be up, you'll get a hit. If the outcome is down, you'll get a miss. And all that is shown in that chart. Okay, so keep listening. And let me just assure you, all the explanations of this make it sound difficult for some reason, just because there's so many words that I use. I think I have to use. But after you do it twice, you won't have any more questions. After you do it once, during doing it once, you'll have questions. After you finish it once, you'll have minimal questions after you get through it one time. So just hang with me here, because it really is quite simple. So what we're going to do now, in fact, here's in a way almost the answer to your question. We're about to do feedback for what we did a month ago. How did that one start? Well, it starts with the tasking email. Everything starts with a tasking email. And the feedback sessions have tasking emails with them as well, as you'll see. And we're going to do that shortly. Now, how do you get these? You have to be in a group. I hope all of you are in one of our either sports or financial groups, because it's to the groups that a tasking like this goes, like the webinar workshop. Okay, this was an email to the webinar workshop group. This one only goes once a week. The other groups are once a month. Just to make it really clear about who to send this to, I'm going to put in right here my email into the chat box. And I forward this to Julie Beeman, who I could not survive without, and she will put you in a group. And indicating your email if you want sports, financial, and if you're a full paid member, you can be in more than one group. You can be up. We have one group a week. So just indicate what your desire is. Okay, so it begins with this. And here is where we indicate what the event is. In this case, notice we I described here, describe and sketch your feedback and your precogging. And the event here is, will the Great British Pound versus the US dollar move up between February 26th and 3/5, which was yesterday. So we didn't know what the outcome was going to be until yesterday. And in fact, I did it, and I'll show you a plot shortly, which I did today. And I put in the event time transcript. And then people who were here, just like you're going to do shortly, they actually clicked this link and did sessions. And you're going to do that shortly. Okay, so this is how you proceed. It really is very user-friendly. Then a prediction. So, and after you do your session, you'll know whether your prediction was up, down, or pass, because we say that to you. I also send out what the group prediction was, and it's less important than your own personal prediction. Again, we're working on personal ISI, but in this case, there happened to be 3 down and 1 up. So as the group manager, I went down. And guess what? The price change is up. Nothing in precognition is 100%. So there's always a probability that 3 people, even if they were very good viewers, will go in one direction and one person would go in the other, and that one person will be right. And in most groups, until we get up to the Precog Pro level and beyond, people are not that good. And so we see this more often than we'd like. Okay, this is, so the price actual change was up as shown here. We started February 6th, which is down here, and here is yesterday. So you can see between that interval, the price changes were up. This happens to be bars showing every hour. And those of you who understand price charts will get this. Those of you who don't need to, so I'm not going to go into it. Remote viewing and feedback entanglement, both ways, that's what entanglement means, begins with the feedback session and target. So I'm just repeating that for you. All of this is done with your subconscious mind. Someone said the mind's journal, and I didn't trace it down, but I repeat it here without any support because I love the idea. And in my opinion, I actually believe 30,000 times, and that's why I put it here, because it allows me to say that's an underestimate. I don't know how you would measure this, but it's the subconscious that's connected to the UCC, that's connected to everything. So it seems to me that's essentially infinite, which is much bigger than the conscious mind with all its now moments, which doesn't have all the now moments in the universe. This is all about entanglement. And so the feedback session, which some of you I hope are here and will do, but if not, I'm going to talk about it with the rest of you and we'll do one. It's all about entanglement. Everything we're doing is about entanglement. And Dean Radin in the book Entangled Minds, and Dean is one of the real premier scientists working in this field. One of the most surprising discoveries of modern physics, and he means quantum mechanics, is that objects aren't as separate as they may seem. When you drill down into the core of even the most solid-looking material, separateness dissolves. All that remains, like the smile of the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, are relationships extending curiously throughout space and time. These connections were predicted by quantum theory and were called spooky action at a distance by Albert Einstein. One of the founders of quantum theory, Erwin Schrödinger, dubbed this peculiarity entanglement, saying, I would not call that one, but rather the characteristic trait of quantum mechanics. And that's how I feel. And I think you should begin feeling about how ideas, how anything which is in the UCC is connected to the other things in the UCC. It's all about entanglement and the strength of that entanglement, which is entanglement energy, maybe expectation energy, what you put into it, that sort of thing. Okay, here we are. This now, notice the date on this, today, Wednesday, March 6th. It was only this morning that I looked and found out what the outcome of the prediction was. The predictions were made a month ago, but the outcome just happened at the close of the market yesterday. I looked it up and I showed you the chart, and it turned out to be up. So as the group manager, I basically give information, tell the server that has all the information from all the predictions and knows for each person which photo site is up for them. And so I send out this email. Notice it says winning side up, and each person who did that prediction would click here, and up would come their feedback picture. Period. So that's how you get it. It's that simple. Okay, so you click, and well, what'll happen when you click here is, in fact, I think I will do it now. Okay, I put this up this morning. You would click there. I had a copy of this here so I could click on it. The next thing that comes up is this feedback page. I'm just trying to make it bigger so you can see it, but there's no magic. It's a feedback place where all you do is put in your email. Because each person, generally, every now and then we do special projects, but generally, each person will have a unique coordinate and they will have their unique target. Let me put this in the chat box for those of you who did this prediction. There is the email address to bring up this page. Those people now will start doing their feedback session. Presumably, you don't have to listen to the next little segment here when I tell the newbies about it, but that's all there is to it. And then they click here and the feedback would come up. And the person who asked about how to get it, that's all they have to do. All they have to do is find this in their email, click it, and the feedback session will indeed come up. If there's some sort of timing out issue, or if there's issues, and there are, all you do is contact me and I take care of it. I'm very email active. I spend most of my working days sitting in front of this computer and looking at my email and doing other stuff. So, okay. So those of you that were here, and go ahead and do your feedback. I see Lila, you were here, and I just don't know if anyone else was, but you can start your feedback session now, and let me go on with the presentation. So here's now an example. When you hit that page, and this is from there, I looked up one person, Marge, who, are you here, Marge? I don't know. Okay, Marge may or may not be here, but this was from that. And remember I said there was one hit and three misses? She was the one who got the hit. So she And this is her transcript. Now, what I want to do is give you an idea of how I believe feedback sessions should go. But remember, and Ingo Swann, one of the real pioneers in remote viewing with the Stanford Research Institute people back in the 1970s, taught the scientists that the viewer is in charge. They kept trying to tell him what to do, and he kept saying, no, 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 I really think it should be done this way. And he was right. You know, he's connecting with his deep self. And so if he feels it's best to do it a different way, go do it a different way. But I'm going to give you one way, and maybe for your newbies, it's a good basic way to start, and you may very well want to modify it as time goes on. But let me show you how I would do this. And I think I can now use a pen. So I'm now imagining our Marge. The only problem is I can't read all her handwriting. But what, are you here?
Hello, I'm here. I can read it if that's helpful.
Oh, okay, good, good, good. Okay, good. I will ask you about that. But what I was first going to say is, you know, I have my transcript. I've now looked at the picture, and the very first thing that I would tend to do is notice really the good stuff and the best good stuff. Like notice this, energy. This isn't, I don't like this pointer. Where are you? I've lost it. Let me see if I can get a better pointer. I'm sorry. This is the first time I'm actually using the pointer here. I can't even find it. It's way too small. Pointer options. Ah, maybe I'll use the highlighter. They're usually bigger. Yeah, okay. So, energy. Energy. I usually use a pen and circle these things, but I'm pointing them out. I also have a blank sheet of paper where I would be writing energy on the blank sheet of paper, doing another session describing this. I'd ignore all of the stuff which doesn't match. Oh my gosh, look, another energy here. What else do you see that really matched this? I found other things. Oh, this. I looked at this, and it's obviously not square. This looks very structure-like. I would probably actually, on my transcript, do something like that with it. Telling my sub, hey, sub, you know, hey, that was pretty good. I really appreciate you giving me this. But next time, you know what? Give me the roundness as well. That would be even better. So I'm communicating with my sub, and that's part of my intention and expectation, and I know it's listening. And so I would improve it. And on my blank sheet of paper, I would do the same thing. I would have written energy, and then I would put this shape. Okay, so you get the idea. Let's see what. Oh, you see, look at this bubbly stuff. Look how good that is, and it even says small. Compare, you know, that's this stuff I would think. Okay, and the circle is not. The circle is pretty good. This has a circle. So anything else in here, Marge, that you think movement? Oh yeah, look at this. I got movement. See, Marge would have remembered this probably, or maybe not from a month ago.
Yeah,
but,
actually, ideogram also shows like this energy goes from the bottom to the top, right?
Oh, so that's meaningful to you, and that's of course what this is all about. So
yes, of
you
course.
would have said, "Oh yeah, confirmation right there." That's really great. And you ignore the stuff, you know. Yeah. So show that she said person. You ignore it. In fact,
Yeah, I do. I tend to, in my session, I tend to basically blind good stuff and just don't disbelieve myself, which
and
is
that's
bad.
exactly right. I would say there are plenty of noises around. In fact, I'm looking now and I would say bubbling is quite good. I
Yeah,
would give myself credit for all that stuff. And again, I would put it on a new sheet of paper
right.
and and repeat these good words. So you're emphasizing them. You're telling, good job, sub.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. A good job. And then I want to, well, I guess you kind of get the point already. I was going to, and it's just hard to do it with this guy, but I would draw, um, I would just draw something like that. It goes across when it shouldn't, and then I would draw some up lines. The stuff across is not real. It does it for some reason that I don't know about. Oh, I think I hold it down too long. But I would draw this as well, and that's it. I mean, it's amazing how simple you could characterize what's really going on. And I'd put that on the other blank sheet of paper. Come up with any other things like, I don't know if you got any colors. Oh, you didn't get colors. I'd say red. And I take a moment to really get into the red, okay, and
Hmm.
really see it at the deep level. Basically, opening up the red communication channel. The communication channel, which is big, but I want to be able to communicate red, right? And so I have to tell my subconscious, oh, look, this is really a good example of red. Hey, oh, and look, I do yellow. I'd write yellow. And I take a moment and say, okay, sub. And, I'm saying it out loud, but you don't want to have this be intellectual. You're doing it internally. And you can say it out loud, and nothing wrong with saying it out loud. It goes through your body. Maybe that's a good way to do it. But it's clear the intention and your expectation is that you are communicating with your subconscious mind and teaching it what red is and what yellow is. So next time it comes up with red and yellow or something like it, it's going to give you the word red, the word yellow.
That's interesting. Thank you. I wouldn't know that it's like possible to influence after session this way, but this is kind of really good too.
Oh, I wanna double down on that, 10 times down on that. That's the value of the feedback session. You should have the mindset that it's during the feedback session when I'm going to do most of my improvements, because that's when I can do most of the learning, because that's when I know the truth. And that's
Right.
when I can now also communicate with my subconscious. Now, some of these tricks you could do other times. You could be looking at a magazine and there's something there you want to teach your subconscious about. You just take a moment and do it. But why not always do it during every feedback session?
Definitely. This is very good too.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now let me see I think I have to erase this before I go on. So let me do that. There we go. Now, this feedback session, as I think you're getting, is really important. Not only can you use it to increase your hit rates because you're increasing your communication with your subconscious, but you're also learning about yourself. You're looking how your subconscious communicated with you. The information that you got that was right, that came from it. And often you'll get words that you never really thought about that were associated with this, and give your subconscious a lot of credit for that. Surprise stuff that comes up is really good from the sub, and give yourself credit for that. Thank you, sub. It just gives you a lot of good stuff. At SRI, they were exceptionally successful at the beginning with their remote viewing, and they had a complicated algorithm involving 9 possible sites, but they got so many first place hits with independent judges. And I believe the reason they did it is they didn't do it kind of on purpose, but they spent a lot of time with feedback because they actually took the viewer to the site and they compared his transcript with what was actually at the physical site. Tell me, is that a really good way to spend time with feedback? And of course, they'd be very happy with the matches. So they were really doing good stuff. Now, again, after doing, and in addition to doing what you just did, I want to add that when you get hits, and you'll know if you got a hit or a miss, hits, all you do is you encourage more and more hits, you celebrate, you feel really good about it, and you notice all the matches, which is what I just said, and have an M&M, do whatever to encourage it and make it clear to your sub. That was terrific, thank you, and we want as many of those as possible. And we have these text box where you can write about your good feelings, write about the good matches. Again, if you want, you did it on the blank sheet of paper, but if you want to do it again here to remember, you can, and all that becomes part of your record. What about a miss? Well, the misses actually are an opportunity to learn more. You get to review things. And most important, don't get in any blame mode. Just take full responsibility for the miss. You could have been good enough to get a hit. I believe that should be your attitude. You can review how your RVing was. Did you rush it? What you're doing now with the miss is you are thinking back, and seeing if you didn't follow your protocol. Can you understand why? Because if you can understand why, then you won't do it next time, or you're less likely to do it next time. So many of us, for example, have rushed it. Gee, I feel like I really need to do one today. I haven't done one for a while. And I never recommend doing that. I only recommend doing it when you feel good about it and feel you have enough time so you're not rushing it. However, guess what? Sometimes we do. So you ask yourself questions like that. You review the whole protocol. Did you stick to it? Did you really feel like during it you had this positive intention and expectation? Did you get into that place during the cool down in a way which is as deep as you would have liked? Did you pay attention to your sub and in some way and let it know you're ready to go, or whatever? You will review your RV session, and hopefully you'll come back and say, nope, I really felt good about that session. You can still get a miss, so it's not like you're going to understand it necessarily, but you might. And now you have the opportunity to analyze your transcript. The first thing I always want people to do is look at the transcript again with the actual target. And very often, they will find things they missed. Oh, my sub was telling me about this, and look at it, it's in the picture. And I missed that if I was self-judging, or my judge missed it. And here you are. You're looking at the actual target and your transcript, and you can basically see if the judging was okay in your opinion. And it might be, or it might not be, but you'll learn something about your judging from that. Okay, so here I use technical analysis. I'm obviously transitioning. If you have an independent judge or yourself, really pay attention to the judging part, because judging is such an important part of all of this. And know that you will get there. Just be positive with all of this. And a pass is pretty much the same thing. Really know there's nothing wrong with passes. We really just want to avoid misses. So just pass and then do pretty much the same thing. You take full responsibility. You look at the actual target. You can check the judging. In both cases, you do on a new sheet of paper. In all three cases, you really do the remote viewing type transcript you wish you had originally done. You do that in all cases. And you teach your sub, you stop for some major things which you missed, and you teach your sub about it for the future. Now, Joe McMonagle said, and it's so true, it's all psychological. What is psychological? Psychological is the psyche, the non-physical stuff that goes on. It's all the stuff in the subconscious that connects with the UCC and the conscious mind. And as much as teachers try to teach you stuff, getting it down at the deep subconscious level and making it yours is the inside job. You have to find it within yourself. Okay, that's feedback. Remember, that's where precognition begins. But now we'll do a linear time one next, unless there are questions. Yeah, thanks for joining us, Shane. Now we'll do a prediction. I think I'm almost on schedule. Now we'll do a prediction and the judging. So now the newbies are going to see what it's like to actually do a new one. So once they're part of a group, I'm just looking to see if there are any questions. Once they're part of a group, this is how they would proceed, exactly like this. They will start with a tasking email, new coordinate task for group. Let me see, is this still on? Let me turn this pointer off. Oh, I don't see a way to turn it off, actually. Okay, I'll just try not to do too much. Okay, so you see, in the email, which goes to the whole group, you'll get this email. You then click on this, and up comes here. In fact, let's do it. Let's do it. So this is real. In fact, some of you that have been in this group before, I noticed one person actually already did the session, because after if you're in this group now, I will add you to it for future emails, unless you don't want me to. Oh, see, this pointer now won't let me click on this. There's got to be a way of turning off the pointer. Laser pointer, pen, highlighter. Oh, maybe it's in here. Turn off pointer. Laser, pen, highlighter, ink color, eraser, erase. Maybe it's under arrow options. Huh. Well, okay. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. Let's do the following. I've got to give you that link so you can actually start your prediction. So I think maybe the easiest way to do it is for me to go back here. No, that's not the easiest way. Let me go here. And let me go here. And there it is. So all I did was copy it. So this was indeed the email I sent out. And now I'll just click on it. So here's what comes up next. I'm going to copy this and put it in the chat box for all of you. So now all of you can click on this. Newbies, do not do it. Um, uh, Old bees, experienced people, you can go ahead and eventually I'm going to have them do one for 10 minutes, but you can use this additional time to do your remote viewing session. And when you finish, if we're not done, have a cup of coffee or something. So all you would do is put in your email address in here twice and click here. And I think my presentation shows what happens next. So where are we? Right. Okay, so let me go full screen here. And let me find where we were, which was, okay. So you now would click there. This is what comes up just as you saw. You would put in your email address in here. Again, you were asking about this. You can see how easy it is. You then simply click there. And what comes up is this screen with your email address and your coordinate. Each person that does this has their unique coordinate. So you get your unique coordinate. It also shows up here. And here it tells you what to do. Now, first you do your remote viewing. You now have your coordinate. That's all you need to do your remote viewing session. So the next step is you do your remote viewing session. And then you're going to come back here to do the judging. Or if you have an independent judge, you send them off your transcript and then they pretend they're you and then they browse for your transcript, put the name for that in here and click submit. For some people, but not most, in this day and age, almost everybody knows how to use a smartphone or a scanner to get a copy of their transcript onto their computer, and then they simply browse and find it from their computer. If you have trouble with that, we can help you. We can help you with that. But that would be the next step. So right now we're getting ready for the newbies to do a remote viewing session. So let's talk about that. The next step, and I guess when you do your judging is when you'd see the two possible ones, but that's after you do your remote viewing session. And then there's a scale of 0 to 7 that you put in, but that's all you have to do. So I hope you think the protocol is very straightforward. It's step by step, and it kind of guides you in a rather straightforward fashion. In terms of doing the remote viewing session, and I can give you copies of sheets like this. A lot of people, in fact, you saw some of them, make their own and just copy them off their computer, make one on Word or something, but I can send you a copy. And these are all the kinds of things your nervous system can give you information on. We start with a coordinate. This is sort of one of the standard ways. You saw examples of people doing it their own way, and the reviewer is in charge. But this one has you take the coordinate, When you do it here, you say it out loud. But before that, above a line, you got the coordinate, you're still in your intellectual mode. You write the coordinate down, you put the name, your date, your time. You say the coordinate out loud here. When you're ready to start, you say it aloud here too, because during the feedback session, you want to say it aloud as well. I think that helps the sub get to you. We have other techniques, beacons and stuff, but saying it out loud vibrates through you, through your DNA, and it can connect up with the subconscious. The first impression kind of gestalts, the big pictures tend to come in first. Your sketches, you've seen how that happens, and a lot of people mix these up, but the sketches are here. And universally now, and I certainly recommend that you do the same as a newbie, put this sense that it was your intellect that came in, put that on the right as AOLs, analytical overlays. I also call it trash because once you write it down, it frees you to get more information from your subconscious. And that's why it really turns out to be important to whatever comes up, and it tends to come up fast. And lots of times you might miss stuff. And if you miss it, you miss it. But we like to have as much as possible on one or two sheets of paper. For ARV, that's enough because you really are only distinguishing between two possible targets. We're not trying to find a missing person exact location. And then this idea of intention, attention, and expectation. You've heard me use those words a lot, and be very attentive to actually applying that during your remote viewing session that you're about to do. In fact, even now you can begin to set your intention to describe and sketch your, and as soon as you click on that link, you will get your specific coordinate. You're going to describe and sketch your feedback target for that coordinate. And there's something called cool down. I actually recommend doing that. Not everybody does, but one way or another, I think they do. Some people have a ritual where they start right away with the ritual and write things down and do stuff. And that's almost like a cool down. The idea is to get rid of the day-to-day stuff and get into your communication channel with your subconscious mind that gets the information from the UCC. So the subconscious mind is what's communicating with your conscious mind. So we're about to give you 10 minutes. It's something called hemisync. It's just background noise. Some people say they don't hear it, and that's fine. Some people do like to do things in quiet. But right now, why don't you take a deep breath in and out. In fact, focus on your breathing. If any other thoughts come in, just let them dissipate out of your body. Some people let them go out of their top of their head. Some let them go out of their feet. Just let them dissipate. Don't pay any attention. Go back to paying attention to your breath. Set your intention. Describe and sketch your feedback target. The one you'll see a month from now with your coordinate. In fact, you can say the coordinate out loud now if you have it, or say it when you get it. Okay. This will go for 10 minutes. And you can begin with your cool down now. Typically, the cool downs last maybe 5 minutes of the 10 minutes to get in touch, and then use roughly the last half to get information. And that's very rough. Some people start getting information right away. I'm now going to go quiet for 10 minutes. Okay, you've got about a minute left. Okay, come on back to your normal waking state. It might stretch a little. A lot of people get into a different state, alpha, delta, whatever. But I want you back into your more normal state. Okay, I see stuff in the chat box. Someone asked, where am I getting the coordinate from? Joe, did you get the, I sent out the link that if you clicked on the link, that would give you the coordinate, the place to put in your email and then get your coordinate. I guess you missed that. Or did someone tell you what to do? I mean, if you didn't get a coordinate, you probably didn't do a session. Okay. Okay. I hope the rest of you, in fact, did. In fact, this was, yeah, this is what you would do. You'd put it in here and it would come up. When you're actually in one of our groups and do it, you would just click a link on one of the emails, the tasking email that you would be sent, and then it would be obvious how to get, then you would get the coordinate pretty directly after you put in your email. Okay, so let's now proceed. So you now have a remote viewing session in front of you, correct? Please tell me correct. This is so much easier to do in a class. I get no feedback, but I'm saying yes, right? Okay. Now the next step.
Yeah,
Okay, good. Thank you.
I'm from Jim, Marty.
Okay, good. Thank you, Jim. The next step is the analysis judging step or transcript analysis. And what do you come up with? A yes, no, up, down. I think in this case, we might have asked the question, will the Forex move up? But if not, that's implied. So it's yes, no. The computer understands exactly which is which. And our job now is to match our one transcript to two possible targets. And ultimately, what we come up with is Russell Targ, one of the founders of this ARV general approach at Stanford Research Institute with Hal Puthoff, came up with the 0 to 7 technique, which are words, but you can see it makes it better and better match as you go on. And then we've added something which I'll tell you about to make it a bit more quantitative, which we think is helpful. But the basic system is 0, 1, or 2 is between no correspondence, which is actually rare, up to what is like chance. You get a few elements correct, but not sufficient to suggest results beyond chance. Okay, so that's 3 is a mixture of correct and incorrect elements, but enough of the former to indicate that the viewer, you, have made contact with the target. So when you do your comparison, you're going to say, you know what? I think I did make some psychic contact with the target, but it's like 3 is right on the margin. 4 is good correspondence now with several matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect information. All of this, of course, has some incorrect information, but it's getting to be less and less. Here he actually calls it out very specifically with still some incorrect information. And what do we mean by elements? Each word is an element. Sometimes a phrase might be an element, but you might give one word of it some credit, for example. Again, you're the analyst. Now, in terms of what we're doing, we consider 3.5 to be wagerable. You know, you can see with these words, there's vagueness. And we've had multiple people judge the same picture with the same transcript, and they differ by 1 a lot. It's often hard to decide. And if you happen to be between 3 and 4 and want to give it a 3.5, what you're now saying is, this is minimal wagerable. I'm willing to wager a few bucks. So 3 was, yeah, some psychic connection, but I'm not going to wager. 3.5, I'm willing to wager, or above. And of course, 4 we already said is good, so you'd feel pretty comfortable there, of course, too. If you wager at all. And it's not clear you should even wager much more as you get higher. That's a personal choice. Always wager wisely if you wager. Now, what's a 5? A 5, he's now using much stronger words. Good correspondence with unambiguous, unique, matchable elements, but still some incorrect information. And then a 6, good correspondence with good analytical information. See, he's now bringing in things like the AOL. If you name the function of the target, that's like an AOL. That's pretty high level. And relatively little incorrect information, you know, what, 5%, 10%? And a 7 is basically spot on with essentially no incorrect information. So that's a 0 to 7 scale. Now, the way we would like you to do it, because too often, if they just look at their transcript, do the target scale, you miss things, is an A-B system, which is the following. And notice on here you have A's and B's. You are shortly going to go to the place where you're going to see the 2 possible targets. One's called photosite A, the other's called photosite B. So you go through all of the elements in your transcript, and I suggest doing it one at a time. At the top, first what you will see is photosite A. So this person put big A's, here's a big A, for whatever photosite A was, okay? Now I happen to know here that B was the hit, and these are the confidence rankings that they put for that. These are the number of matches. You see, you begin to get a lot more quantitative now. So she marked first all the A's. She had a big A here, big A, and then little a. Well, the little a again is it on or isn't it on? And rounded apparently was probably just a little bit of rounded, didn't know if she should make it a full A. You know, you don't search for all the small things. You're supposed to be describing the main elements, the things which are, more or less obvious or very easily inferred. Okay, so she did those with the big A's and little a's, and the same thing with the B's. You can see all the big B's, you can see a few little B's, and then you count them up, and then her 34 were the total number of possible elements. And the sketch counts as a possible element, this sketch, this sketch, this sketch, and this sketch. So she had 4 possible elements as sketches, and I guess 30 things in here. And sometimes sketches are complicated enough, like a box with a bunch of rectangles, or you might consider the little rectangles, a lot of them, to be a possible element in addition to rectangularness. So they're judgments as part of this analysis. But notice we now can take ratios, and that's what we're going to use next. So this is really a good example. Now, Joe McMonagle, and I stole this from him with his blessings, believes, as I do, that in remote viewing, which is the step you just did, the thing which tends to come in first, though sometimes it's only obvious by looking at the full transcript, so there's nothing 100% always true in this business, it appears. But what is important are what I call first impression gestalts. And what those are the things which hit you when you first look at the picture. Is there a lot of water? Is there a lot of one color? Is there a major structure? Is there a big building? Are there a pair of things? Sometimes 2 comes up first, and it could be a gestalt. But there'll be stuff, and when you look at a picture, there's just stuff that hits you first, and it smacks you in the face. In terms of the rest of the remote viewing session, it sort of gets you in the ballpark. And there can be more than one fig. But he wants to give, and does give, 50% weight to that. And then 50% weight goes to this ratio of the number of matches for A divided by the total, as we saw in the previous example. Okay, so I took that same example, and thank you, Lila, and I did just a little arithmetic. I took her 24, divided it by 34, and got 0.7. This one, I made the judgment. I went all the way to a fig of 1. I mean, I think she really captured this picture beautifully. I mean, this is close enough to the mountain. She said so many other kinds of things: rocky, hard. She got the green. She got so much outdoors. There wasn't in the mountains. She just captured it all. I can't remember if she got water. Well, yep, she even got water. So, maybe had she missed water, for example, I might have given her a 0.75 or 0.8 for getting everything else. It's not like I feel you have to get all the gestalts to get a high number. But in this case, I gave her a 1, which means according to the formula here, you just take the fig, in this case, which is a 1, you add this ratio of 0.7, and you multiply by 3.5. Why do you multiply by 3.5? Because the maximum this can be is 2. You multiply by 3.5, you're always going to get a number up between 0 and 7. So it's really that simple. Notice using that technique, this technique, we came up with 5.95, which you would put in as a 6, and she gave herself a 5. That's not too bad. That's between the 1 difference that I said different people judging this would in fact do. And it wouldn't surprise me if somebody else looking at these 2 might have just looking at the target, have given it a 6. And so this works pretty well, and I actually recommend this. The arithmetic is pretty simple for most of us, and it forces you to look at every element and make a judgment element by element. And that's very important. And remember how important this phase is, because from here, just as it happened here, she predicted B, and I don't know anymore whether that was up or down, but that was the way you would want to have made an investment. This is for those who really are number phobic, and all it is on the bottom is the 0 to 2, right? The fig A can be 0 to 1. The ratio, I'm assuming you could get the ratio, is between 0 to 1, and then you don't have to do the multiplication. I may stop showing this, but this is just a chart. So if you did that sum and you came up with 1.5, whoops, that means the CR would be a 5 for A, and if the other one might be whatever number it gives. But you have to do it for both. So ultimately, as you'll see, all of this leads to putting in a confidence ranking for photo site A, a confidence ranking for photo site B, which are the two possible targets, between 0 and 7. And this is what you're communicating about your prediction. Okay? Ultimately, you are saying when you give it a 6 that you really did a good job, a good correspondence. There was some analytical information maybe, but it's a high number. It's really a good number. You get a 5, that's really good. 5s are excellent. 4s are good. 3.5s are good, but you're getting closer to the margin. And this is what you're telling the group manager who looks at all of these. So let's do it. How do you put them in? Well, you go back to this page, which those of you who did transcripts already have open. You didn't get that either. You know, I should have stayed on. Oh, I'm so sorry. You see in the chat box, oh my gosh. Oh, wait, I think, yeah, here it is here. For those of you who may want to do this afterwards, I'm going to click on it now and show it to you. It was there. Someone privately put a different one. Okay. So here is what you do. All you do, and oh no, that was for the feedback. Sorry. You know what? I may have done it privately. God, I have to totally. Did any of you get do a session? Yeah, someone said they did.
Yeah, I did, Marty, but I didn't have coordinate.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm having problems with my.
Well, no, I don't think it's you. I'm looking at what I did, and it looks like I accidentally sent it privately. I think I had previously gotten a private email, and so I sent it privately, and so nobody else got it. Ah, I wish somebody would have said something
I got a
louder.
date. I got a date and a name.
That's
good.
all. That's all, frankly, you need. And so I think we'll use you as our example. But I do want. Yeah.
I hope I can get the picture to you.
Yeah. This is the proper one here. And if you want to copy it to do it now or later, you can. God, I wish I was more perfect. I really do. Ah, I'll put it in the chat box now to everyone. Okay. Now you see it in your chat box, right? Yeah. Do you? Yeah. I see it on, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Cindy. So, and you might as well do this, and then you'll get the feedback a month from now. So this could just become one of your regular sessions. Whether you do it while I'm talking through this or not is sort of up to you. You can do it later, but that is the link. And this is how simple it is. You just put your email in twice, click, and up will come your particular coordinate. In fact, if I were to do this, and there's no reason I can't do it now, this would be, oh, that's because I'm doing coding. Okay, forget it. You would get your coordinate. Now let's go on to the next. Let's go on to the next one here. Okay, so we need to do judging. The judging is now this last step, and we do need to upload it. You know, how about, can you send me as an attachment? Oh, this is going to be difficult because we don't have any transcripts. Well, you know what? I told you what to do. I told you everything about judging you really need to know. Since you don't have transcripts, you can't do it. Now, you're going to have to do it on your own. And enter it on your own. So even you, Jim, will have to go back to the link I just gave you and click there. You will get a coordinate. Put that coordinate on your transcript because that's the one you were meant to get. So it's just the same as the way you did it. I mean, I'm really happy that you did it that way. Some people don't even use coordinates. They just use the date, you know, and the hour, and that makes it unique for their feedback target. And they put the same date and say time on the feedback. So you're in good shape, Jim.
Well, Marty, I got problems with my iPad here. It's low on power and it's having a hard time keeping up enough energy to run. I'm afraid I'm going to lose you.
Okay, but what I'm saying to you is copy, if you can, with your iPad, this link that I just put up.
Okay.
Copy it somewhere in your notes, and then go to that later, and that will give you your coordinate, and put that with your transcript. Just write that on the top of your transcript. And then you have to upload it and go to the next step. Okay?
Okay. All right.
So this is where you will go, and you got your transcript, and
I've got a new computer here. I just haven't learned how to run it.
Yeah. Well,
I was with you a couple months ago. I'm the one who typed the red text on the screen.
Yes. Okay, I do remember.
I'm the dowser. I've been doing really well with my dowsing program. We're 76%. And I found a really interesting thing. I started to learn this remote viewing on some of your old meetings. And as I did the remote viewing, and then before I did my feedback session, I would do my dowsing program, which is kind of complicated and it takes preparation, but it upped I got 11 wins in a row on my dowsing.
Dowsing. Okay.
And the pictures were about 3/4, but I'm discovering something about doing the remote viewing sets my mind up more powerfully when I do for my dowsing.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. In fact,
interesting. I'm sorry for taking your time.
No, no, no. In fact, um, I want to
I've,
finish this, and then some people may want to stay to hear what I'm about to tell you about dowsing and how you can use dowsing in this system. In fact, let me just say it now since we're right here. If you wanted to use dowsing, you could put in a fake transcript, unload it as a dummy, and then with the pendulum, that's one kind of dowsing. You know, there are others.
I use a pendulum, and I also use muscle reflexes on my fingers.
Okay, so notice
I
what
use
you can
different
do.
charts,
Notice what
different wheels.
Notice what you could do right here. This is the page where you're going to put in the confidence rankings, right? This is the one that comes up after you upload your transcript. You could now ask with your pendulum, is photo site A going to be the feedback target for 601902? You'll get a yes or a no. You can confirm that. Now, I think this is front loading. I would consider it, but dowsers think about things differently.
I don't do yes, no. I don't. I have a different process.
Okay, but notice what I'm saying is having these two pictures in front of you, you ought to douse one way or another which one's going to be your target. That's the only point I'm making. I have some people who have done that. That's all.
I do my transcripts. I turn them over, and then I set my dowsing page. So I do 16 dowses or 4 sets, and then it's kind of like technical analysis. How I see groups of wins and losses together, and it's hard to
explain. And let's not.
But it has improved. It has improved as if I do my transcripts, put them away. I seem my dowsing percentage went straight up.
Well, that's terrific.
It's like my subconscious mind was cluing into the transcripts when I was doing my dowsing.
Okay, are you doing this within the WE protocol? So do I have your data on that?
I don't know.
No, you're not, because you're not going here. Okay, so let me summarize where I think we are. This is, you've done your prediction, and I'm afraid, unfortunately, because I sent the link privately, bad Marty, you're going to do these on your own. Then you upload your transcript, and you go and you'll get this page. First, you'll get a picture of both photo site A by itself, photo site B by itself, and then this where you'll get to see both of them. You'll do that A-B approach of judging, and then you simply, this drop-down menu has a 0 to 7 in it, and this has 0 to 7 in it, you know, in reasonable increments. You click the one for A, depending on, you know, how you judge it. You click it for B, put your comments in here. These comments are for you. You put the comments in there, and you click submit, and you're done. So that took you through the predictions and the judging. We started with the feedback, so we did a little bit with all the sessions. And what I want to do now is end this and then have final questions. So, sort of in summary here of the bigger picture, not the protocol, is you ultimately create your precognition. The ARV begins with the feedback session, causing in a retrocausal way. And you should know science is finally getting into this more and more. There are retrocausality meetings now, and well attended by still relatively few scientists that come to this, but I think they have like, I haven't been to one of them yet, but I think they have like 100 members or some people like that come, like the Parapsychology Association meetings. So they call it retrocausality, but what this all is this entanglement sort of outside of space and time between the remote viewing session and the feedback session when you see the real target, so you know the truth. I like to think of this as a precognitive telepathy. But the beauty is it's precognitive telepathy, mind to mind, with your own mind. So you are telepathically, another way of looking at this, communicating with yourself, which makes this so beautiful. And your subconscious mind is the thing which is common to both of them in our normal way of thinking. Your conscious mind is different here, obviously, than it is here. And that's what we want. We want you, a conscious mind, to be getting information from the subconscious mind about the actual target, the true target here.
Is there, Marty, I'm sorry to interrupt, is there any telepathy between you and your tasker that's picking your souls? Like, I'm trying to do this with a cousin of mine who's a professional sports handicapper. And,
there may be. You know, that's not what you're trying to key into here. But I think, you know, the universe of collective consciousness contains everything. We're connected to all that. Everything is connected to everything else. So at some level, there is telepathy going on. What gives it strength is always the key issue. You know, that's why when somebody close to you is in a bad accident someplace else, that gives that telepathic connection, which I think is actually always there, the strength.
What I find happening is that I'm drawing both pictures. And I don't know whether I'm connecting into his mind or into the envelopes.
Well, he's your judge then. He's the guy who knows both pictures.
Yeah, I'm doing some amazing pictures, but we've lost a few games just last night to Florida.
Ask your sub why that happens. That happens to be more common than any of us would like.
It's like a flip, and I get them in my dowsing. Sometimes my strongest dowses are the ones that flip.
And this is common, Jim. If this didn't happen, we'd be done.
Okay.
And this is one of these places where you have to work on improving your expectation to only get the right one, and ask your subconscious why it's happening. I've had people tell me, wait, let me finish, because I've had people tell me that when they looked at their subconscious, part of the subconscious says, you know what? I really don't want to be 100%. I really can't handle that. I would feel like I was a freak. And so I missed this one on purpose. Really take that in. The subconscious could actually choose to miss it on purpose because it has access to both through, in your case, through your tasker.
Okay, well, I'll do that.
Yeah, and I told that person, just like I'll tell you and anybody else, because this happens, is really get down to the level where you convince yourself, okay, you know, it's okay to be 80%. That won't make you a freak. And that's why I think setting expectations like 80% make a lot of sense, because now you can be complete yourself and still get misses. You can still display sometimes, but not that often.
No, I get you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, strong, loving entanglements will follow when you give yourself clear intentions, pay attention, mostly to your subconscious, as it communicates with your conscious mind, and your expectations about applying your entanglement energy, your expectation energy, everything we've been talking about. I think this idea of bringing love into it happens to be very important. You want to be doing all of this with kind of a loving attitude to yourself, that you're able to be participating in this. How magnificent this is, period. This is a nice quote I love. The goal of life is to match your heartbeat to the beat of the universe. That's Joseph Campbell. And then I just simply added, on a smaller scale, your RV heartbeat session can match the beat of your feedback session. You know, so that's the essence of ARV ultimately.
Yeah, I've been involved in esoterics and metaphysics for 30 years, and for the last 7 years, I started developing my dowsing program, and then ran into this remote viewing, and it's just been one step and more fun after more fun.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so this ends my formal presentation. Thank you all for, being here, participating, and those of you who are still here at the end, that's terrific. Questions, comments, and please do ask away because others probably have similar questions and comments.
Well, Marty, how do you task a win-lose scenario in a sports game?
Well, that's easy. We do that all the time, right?
I know, and I've been all over the site trying to find it, and I don't know.
No, the group manager has to do it. In other words, you've got to get into a group and you've got to ask your group manager to do a specific game, which is win-lose, and then he'll task it for you.
Okay.
Okay, so you need to get into some of our groups, Jim.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and just simply email me, and you want sports groups, so just email me as a reminder, hey, please put...
Well, I've been working, win-lose for so long. I've been working with that energy of win and lose.
Well,
and it's hard for me to adjust my pass system to over and under. I don't know how to do that with my dowsing system.
Make win the same as over. I mean,
Okay.
you could fit it. You could figure it out. Okay. Other questions? I don't want other questions. It's okay. It's time to see if anybody else. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah. Hey, Marty. This is Tom.
Yeah. Hi, Tom.
I'm a new guy. I was just wondering where we can get a list of what each group does. Like, there's different ones I saw here.
There are 5 sports groups and 1 horse racing group.
Okay. And are there any that are looking for like judges right now?
That is such a good question. What I would love for you to do, you feel like you'd like to do judging, that's great. Go on our discussion list. You're already a member. You obviously go to the our discussion group, and I really would like you to do that because I've had other people tell me they're looking for a judge. They'd like to try independent, remote viewing with an independent judge, and I've tried to find some for them in the past, and I don't know if it was successful or not. I hooked people up. Why don't you say, hey, I would really like to get into judging. If there's anybody out there that would like an independent judge, contact me.
Okay.
Send that out to the entire discussion group and give, your personal email, and that'd be really great.
All right. Yeah, and so you said there's like 5 sports ones?
5 sports groups, and I think they're 5. I don't even remember anymore, but they're a fair amount.
Okay.
And the group managers do different things depending on what they're interested in. And there's one of those is a horse racing group.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you.
Yeah. I must tell you, I can't guarantee my 5 is right, but there's definitely at least 3.
Right. I was trying to find out which ones were active because I saw the predictions that are coming out. I guess there was a couple that were more active than the others.
Right. And that's the way that, exactly. Just by looking at that, you could find out and then ask me or go to Julie Beeman if you've ever seen her email address. She's the one who will put you in there. But you can send it to me and I'll just forward it to her.
Gotcha.
Other questions, comments? Okay. Well, this has been another one. Wait, I need to get rid of some other stuff I have here. And I can do that this way. And I will quit this for all of us. Now, okay, all of you, thanks again and keep precogging.
Thank you.
See you guys.